Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over 10 vehicles that are worth every penny in GTA Online. Now, if you don't know what that means, somehow these are vehicles that are worth whatever the amount of money that they cost is. So vehicles that are worth buying, basically, is what the video is about. Now, I got some pretty good picks on here. I got some just regular cars. I got some armored vehicles. I got some aircraft. I got some things that can generate you money, everything like that. So anyways, it should be a pretty interesting list, and we're going to go ahead and get started with number 10. But before we do, consider dropping a like on the video if you enjoy and subscribing if you're new. Let's go ahead and start off with number 10. At 10, we have the Karen Sultan for $12,000. And this is probably one that you weren't expecting me to talk about, or maybe you were, because this is the best vehicle that you can steal off of the street or purchase for only $12,000. By far. The performance that this vehicle has is off the charts for how much money it will cost you, and additionally it does have some pretty good customization. Even for a vehicle from way back in 2013, this thing's all-wheel drive, so it's really good off-road, on-road, in the rain, everything like that. The performance is also insane for being in the sports category and only 12 grand. I mean, this thing will compete with some of the vehicles that are more around like the $100,000 range, and it could potentially almost keep up with some of the early game supercars, like things like the Vapid Bullet, maybe even the Pegasi Vodka and things like that. Obviously not in all scenarios, but generally I would say they're kind of on an even plane in some ways, which is pretty crazy to think about. Now, also on top of all this thing can also be upgraded into the Karen Sultan RS, which is a Benny's vehicle, and that gives it even more customization and much better performance, turning it from a sports car into a supercar with only 2 doors instead of 4. This will cost you 795 grand, but I would say it is well worth the money because the Sultan RS is a classic in GTA, and it's definitely an awesome car. Karen Sultan, definitely worth every penny. At number 9, we got the HVY, or the Heavy Night Shark, for $1,245,000. This thing is like the perfect blend of being a relatively cheap but relatively well armored and also pretty fast vehicle. It's a very good package generally, I would say. And for, under $1,250,000, it's a really awesome vehicle. It's got quite a bit in the way of customization with the armor plating and things that you can add onto the vehicle, although I don't recommend putting the window armor plating on it because that will restrict the use of weapons from inside of the vehicle, and it will limit you to just using the front-mounted machine guns that come on the vehicle that are driver controlled. Now, these things are basically beanbag guns, but eventually they will take something out. It'll just take a few business days before that happens, but they are nice to have nonetheless. The Night Shark can take 27 homing missiles or 9 RPGs, which is pretty crazy. This thing is quite well armored. So if you're getting chased by like an Oppressor Mark II or whatever, you can survive even if they hit every single missile that thing is carrying, and then they're going to have to despawn it, call it again, and then hit you with 7 more missiles to take you out. And that's assuming all the missiles hit, which they probably won't. It's also all-wheel drive. It's got relatively good ground clearance, acceleration, and a pretty good top speed, just under 120 miles per hour, maybe like 115, something like that. Between 110 and 120, I would say, somewhere in that neighborhood. But pretty quick vehicle. Overall, a very useful one. Of course, it is a 4-seater and everything like that. It's an awesome truck, and I would definitely recommend owning a Night Shark if you don't have one already. It's definitely worth every single penny. Next up at number 8, we have the Buzzard for $1,750,000. Now, before you disagree with me, let me remind you of just how impactful the Buzzard has been, despite being one of the initial vehicles that we got with the release of GTA Online. The Buzzard still to this day has the highest damaging machine guns in the entire game. It's no longer just a Pegasus vehicle. You can now request it for free or for $25,000 if you do not own it through the CEO vehicles menu when you're registered as a CEO. Or, of course, you can also turn it into a personal aircraft by taking it to your hangar. Now, on top of this, it's still one of the fastest armed helicopters in GTA Online. It's also extremely maneuverable, largely due to its relatively small frame, and it can hold its own against much newer and much more expensive helicopters like the FH-1 Hunter, the Akula, the Sparrow, and most importantly, the Buckingham weaponized Canada, which costs a whopping $3,385,000, which is nearly double the price of the Buzzard. And this thing would destroy it if you got into an aerial fight with the two vehicles. The Buzzard is still crazy to this day, and for only $1,750,000, it has a lot of utility and definitely a lot of applications for where it is going to be a very, very excellent vehicle. Now, a lot of people are going to say, don't buy the Buzzard, buy the Sparrow. It's only a little bit more money and you get fully spammable missiles. This is true, but the Buzzard, you get guns and missiles, which is cool, and it can seat 4 players instead of just 2 with the Sparrow. Plus, the Buzzard, you don't need to own a Kasatka submarine for an extra $2.2 million. So that makes the Buzzard much better and definitely worth all the money that it costs, in my opinion. Next up, we got the Acid Lab or Brigade 6x6 for $750,000 or $1,450,000. But if you watched my video the other day, you'll know that that is a price that you should never pay for this thing. Now, I also don't want you to get me confused, because I know that I said this is a vehicle that nobody should buy the other day. Now, if you're of higher intelligence, you'll know what I meant in the other video where I said that, but unfortunately, some of you will not understand what I'm meaning here, so I'm going to explain it again. Once you have completed the first dose missions from the Drug Wars DLC, buying the Acid Lab or the Brigade 6x6 for $750,000 is a great purchase. You buy it once you get it into the free shop, once you've stolen it in that last first dose mission. However, you should never buy it before completing the 6 first dose missions, where you actually get the thing back to the free shop. So please understand what I just said there fully before commenting. Now, this vehicle and business is really awesome. It's only going to cost you $1 million all totaled with the equipment upgrade on top of the $750,000 to put the Acid Lab in the Brigade. And for that price, there's not really a higher ROI business in GTA Online. And additionally to this, the Brigade 6x6 is the second most armored vehicle in GTA Online. So you're getting a literal tank as an added bonus for your purchase price of only $750K, which is insane. And the Acid Lab will make you about $350,000 per time that you sell it, and it will only take about 4 to 6 hours to actually fill it up. So this thing is going to make you a ton of money for a relatively small investment, making it very good and definitely worth all the money that it costs. At number 6, we got the Bravado Buffalo STX for $1,612,500 to $2,150,000. Now, this thing is just generally an awesome vehicle. It is within the muscle car category, so of course it does get access to the wheelie, which is cool in itself. And not only that, but it's also one of the very fastest muscle cars for not only straight line performance, but also for circuit racing and entering races. It is actually an excellent vehicle to race with. It's also got 4 doors, of course, so you can seat yourself and 3 other players within it. And you can be pretty well protected because it has bullet resistant glass, which will take about 15 shots from an assault rifle. And you can also, of course, put the armor plating upgrade on it, the Imani Tech missile lock-on jammer, front mounted machine guns, and an oil slick proximity mine dropper. Now, that all sounds pretty awesome, and you get some really good customization with it as well, and generally just an awesome looking car. The STX is definitely one of the very best Imani Tech vehicles in the entire game, and it is certainly worth its price point of $1,612,000. Once you get the trade price, of course. Now, for $2,150,000, it's less worth it, but it's still worth every penny. It is an awesome vehicle, and you should buy one. At number 5, we got the Kasatka submarine for $2,200,000. Now, if you're watching this video the day that it comes out or the day after it comes out, the Kasatka is actually 30% off. So if you don't have one yet, you should be taking advantage of that. Now, the Kasatka submarine is just generally an awesome vehicle. I never thought that we would ever get a nuclear-powered, operatable, drivable, sailable submarine in GTA Online. It's just something I didn't think was ever going to happen, yet it did, which is really cool. And of course, the best part about it is that it gives you access to the Cayo Perico heist, which is regarded as one of the best ways or better ways to make money in GTA Online. In terms of like a per hour basis, Cayo Perico is by far the best earning thing that you can do in GTA Online, making it an excellent way to make money. However, it has been nerfed over the years and slowly gotten worse and worse as time has gone on. but it is still really good and it is a great way to make money. The Kasatka itself is also very cool. You can upgrade it with things like guided missiles. You can put sonar on it. You can store a Sparrow helicopter inside, like I mentioned a little bit earlier when I was talking about the Buzzard. You can also put a Toreador or a Stromberg inside of it and get a mini submarine to go within your big submarine. It's pretty crazy. The Kasatka is definitely worth its pretty low price point of only $2,200,000. It's really not that expensive if you just get a bare bones Kasatka, but of course you can upgrade it more to be like a $9 million submarine, which is pretty crazy, but it is certainly worth all the money that it costs, and you should definitely buy one. Next up in the number 4 slot, we have the Karen Kuruma Armored for $525,000 if you have the trade price, which is unlocked by completing the Fleesa job, or it's going to be $698,250 if you have not completed that heist. Either way, no matter what, the Karen Armored Kuruma is a great vehicle to pick up, and it is 100% worth every penny. For fighting NPCs, there's not a better vehicle in the entire game. Now, I do think that the Karen Kuruma Armored is a little bit overrated in a general sense. I think that people really like to say that this thing is like the end-all be-all vehicle in GTA. And that may have been true a few years ago, but the lack of explosive resistant armor does kind of put a little bit of a hinder on it. But as far as a vehicle goes for being able to take it into missions and fight NPCs and be almost 100% safe from small arms fire, there is not a better vehicle in this game than the Karen Armored Kuruma. This thing is absolutely legendary, and it is pretty cheap as well for what you're getting. You get a little bit of customization on top of it, and it is just generally a pretty cool looking vehicle. You cannot go wrong with a Karen Kuruma Armored, and you should definitely buy one if you do not have one already somehow. It would be kind of a miracle to me if you hadn't heard of this car or you didn't have one, but on the off chance that you don't, you should definitely change that. Next up, we got the Pegassi Toreador coming in at $4,250,000, and it formerly went for $3,660,000. But unfortunately, Rockstar did increase the price on the vehicle a number of years ago, but honestly pretty justified because the Toreador is an excellent vehicle. It is exceptionally good in free mode and especially as a defensive vehicle, but the amount of fun that you can have with this car is also pretty insane. To start things off, of course, we do have a rocket booster on the vehicle, which can be done every few seconds and launches the vehicle forward and makes it very, very quick. It also has front-mounted machine guns that are some of the highest damaging in the entire game for a land vehicle, and it has lock-on missiles, which are insanely good as far as the tracking goes. This thing is a bit of a fly swatter. You can shoot down oppressor Mark IIs like absolutely nothing with this vehicle. On top of this, it's also a 4-seater, so you and 3 friends can roll around in it. And then of course there is the fact that it is a submersible car, and you can drive it into the water and just sail it around like it is a submarine. You can sail it to your Kasatka and put it in there if you have one. And you can use it to find the underwater treasure that is around the map, which is pretty sweet. When it's in the water, it also gets access to torpedoes instead of missiles, which is another added bonus, just to make this thing a little bit more worth it. Plus, not to mention, it's also quite armored. It can take about 6 homing missiles, which is not bad, considering what all it can do for you. The Toreador is a must-have vehicle in this game, and it is definitely worth all the money that it costs. At number 2, we got the F-160 Raiju for $5,141,250. If you got the trade price. If you don't, it's going to be $6,855,000. But no matter what price you pay for the Raiju, it is definitely worth every penny because this thing is by far the best jet in the entire game. It is faster than the laser and the Hydra. It has an explosive dual autocannon, which is arguably just as good as the laser and Hydras now that they have both been nerfed. The only thing that I don't like about the Raiju's cannons is that they are mounted on the wings, so there's a bit of spread in between the cannons, which is a little bit annoying. It's not as good as the nose-mounted cannons that are on the laser and the Hydra, but everything else about this vehicle is just better because, of course, it does have a toggleable stealth mode, which will remove you from the mini-map, which is a crazy feat to be able to pull that off. It's really awesome. But of course, the other great feature about it is that it does have VTOL mode, vertical takeoff and land. So it can land and take off like a helicopter, or it can take off like a jet if you want it to. But then you can change it into jet mode when you get up into the air, or you can change it into helicopter mode when you get close to the ground and you're trying to land. The Raju is an insanely good jet, and it is definitely worth all the money that it costs. There are going to be people in the comment section who are going to be like, well, actually, XYZ planes are better for dogfighting. Don't listen to them, they're nerds. If you want to fight people in the sky, like, maybe, but generally I would say that the Raju is the best plane in the entire game, and in my opinion it's definitely worth all the money that it costs. Now for an honorable mention, I have the Ocelot Virtue, and the reason it's honorable is because it's literally free. You complete the first and last dose missions from the Drug Wars DLC. Halfway through that, you're going to get access to the Acid Lab, like I said a little bit earlier, and then for completing the second half, you'll get access to the Ocelot Virtue for free, which is really sweet. The Virtue is an Amani Tech capable supercar. It's the fastest accelerating supercar on last gen as it stands currently. It has armor plating, Amani Tech, and it's the most armored Amani Tech car in the entire game. This thing could take like 20 homing missiles. It's pretty crazy, and it's just generally an awesome vehicle. Now unfortunately the handling is not that great, but it is free at the end of the day, so we can't really complain too much. Now it is purchasable if you don't feel like getting it for free for like $2,230,000 to like $2,980,000, I do believe it is. So it is a bit on the expensive side if you don't get it for free. So I would definitely recommend just doing the missions and getting it for free. I think that's your best bet for sure. And I'm sure you're probably wondering what is going to be at number one, and of course it's the Canis Seminole, because the Canis Seminole is the best vehicle in GTA Online history. This thing costs a measly $30,000, but unfortunately it is no longer purchasable on the websites in GTA because they removed it. They had to remove it because it was just too overpowered, and honestly I can kind of see why. This thing is a submersible vehicle. It can fly, it has missiles and machine guns that you can't even see on the vehicle. So when you're just driving around and you're seeing Canis Seminoles all over the place, just know that they're not regular traffic like you probably think that they are. They have the best tracking missiles in the entire game, the highest damaging guns in the entire game. It has a flight mode, it is a submersible vehicle, it has a rocket booster, and it's the most armored vehicle in the entire game, ahead of the Acid Lab and obviously the Mobile Operations Center cab. This thing can take 155 homing missiles and 28 RPGs, which is like lunacy. So obviously I think it's needless to say you need to buy a Canis Seminole. You can buy these from another player. You're not really allowed to steal them off the street. I've kind of stamped that, so please don't steal one from other owners that already have one. I mean, if you find one unoccupied, that's one thing, but please don't take a person out of their beloved Canis Seminole in order to get it for yourself. That would just be truly unfair and would make me quite sad. But this thing is awesome, guys. And of course, to unlock all these features, you do need to fully upgrade the car. So I'm talking full armor, full brakes, full engine, full transmission, full turbo. You got to put the neon kit on the thing. You got to change the color. You have to put the window tint on. You got to put expensive wheels on it as well, or not even expensive wheels, but just aftermarket wheels. You got to do it up all the way, obviously. To unlock all these features, that is the cost of doing business with the Canis Seminole. But that's it for the list. Let me know what you guys thought of my list in the comment section down below. Comment a 7 if you're familiar with the Canis Seminole, just so we know who knows what they're talking about. Like, obviously, if you comment a 7, you know what the Canis Seminole is capable of. If you don't know what the Canis Seminole is capable of, make sure you get one. It is obviously a great car, as I stated before. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, dislike if you didn't. Let me know if you think I missed anything in the comment section down below, of course, and consider subscribing if you're new. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Peace.